This is Remote Ruby.
Have you any remote idea to the meaning of the word?
What's up?
What's up?
Yo.
Hell of a week last week.
Yeah.
Right.
People will probably notice we missed a week for good reason. It was quite a strange time.
And we tried. Andrea was out and Chris and I, we started recording and it felt weird. And we were like, Andrea, do you want to come join us? And then we talked for like 20 minutes, but it was really nothing of any substance, I would say. It was more just kind of hot takes. And they, in hindsight, they didn't feel very valuable. So we just scrapped it. So
yeah,
a couple of weeks later, we're recording and yeah, here we are.
Here we are. How have y'all been?
How is your arm?
It hurts. Everything hurts.
So are you going to switch to doing speech to code instead of typing with your hands?
No.
Have you seen that old Windows Vista thing? Yeah. Well, I'll find a link to that so people can see that. That's what I imagine. You're going to be speaking the syntax out loud. And luckily, Ruby is pretty good for that without semicolons and a bunch of stuff. But it wouldn't be very easy.
Yeah, until I have to go to JavaScript. I'll be like, closing parentheses, closing parentheses, closing parentheses, closing parentheses.
Bro, just prettier that stuff.
I fell off my skateboard. Yep, super awesome accident.
I didn't even know how it happened. I just saw you were hurt and immediately we just started making jokes. But
yeah, thanks. Appreciate that, Jason.
I'm here for you.
I fell off my skateboard. So it is a kind of a funny accident. I fell off my skateboard in front of approximately 100 people on rush hour traffic. So that was great as well.
Tony Hawk.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, Tony Hawked it. I just tripped, but I immediately I've fallen enough off my skateboard where I was like, something's not right. Something feels very bad. Then I kind of hobbled back to my car, bleeding everywhere. And I guess I was supposed to clean that. I didn't do that.
Do you drive a stick shift?
No, thankfully I do not.
That's actually the one thing I thought about.
No, I don't drive a
shift.
stick
Mustang. So
yeah, I drive a Mustang, but I don't drive a stick shift, which I know some consider the cardinal sin. I don't care.
Might as well just get rid of it.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Just go everywhere on your skateboard. Am I right?
You know what? This story's over. I fell off my skateboard. I have a high impact fracture. My arm's in a cast and a sling. And Jason's got some funny jokes. I'll tell you all that.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, hopefully that doesn't impact your move too much, but it seems like it will.
It seems like it will. Fortunately, I went to the orthopedic doctor right after the emergency care. And they were like, okay, good thing is it's a super clean fracture. And because it's a high impact fracture, we're going to wrap you up in this cast thingy majigger and then come back in 10 days. We'll cut it off. You'll be good to go. And I was like, oh, so I might actually be able to leave on time. As we speak right now, as we're recording, my parents are currently cleaning my room, which is just perfect. So they're helping me move. And then I might actually be able to get on the road in time.
Nice.
But I don't even have a house yet, so it's not like I have anywhere to go.
Oh my God.
Everything is not panning out well, as you can see.
You're still going to drive through Memphis?
Yes.
All right.
If
Are you going to let me know that you're driving through Memphis?
Yeah. Oh, well, I thought you wanted me to just show up.
Yeah, well.
You have to slide in the door like Kramer.
I know the reference. I don't know the exact thing. I think we canceled Kramer, so you'll have to find a new reference.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, sorry you're hurt. Thanks for the laughs.
No problem, guys. Bruised collarbone, bruised femur, fractured arm. I'm glad you got some lulls, though.
In all seriousness, I did download Tony Hawk 1 and 2 this week on my PS5. So
you got a PS5? Yeah, just keep rubbing it in, bro. Keep rubbing.
I want to say I've fallen quite a bit this week, too. So
okay. Well, as long as someone's out there with me.
Oh, God. We haven't even said hello to Andrea. So even though we didn't release last week's episode, Andrea is back with us again. We invited her to join us and just talk Ruby. I think the word caddy was thrown out before we started recording, which would be cool because she is our resident caddy expert at Podia. So, hey, Andrea, thanks for joining us.
Hello. I was just sitting here laughing the whole time you guys were talking to each other. It was pretty great to just sit here and watch.
They just roasted me. They just got to see a live barbecue.
I do have a couple of things I want to talk to you about because I've done that cross-country move before. You don't have a place lined up to live?
No, but on the bright side, I'm only taking what I can fit in my car. So conceivably, I could just sit in the side of the road for a while.
I've done that move and I took only what fit in my car at the time. And hey, you'd be surprised. You can fit a lot of stuff in your car if you're motivated for it. So I can't wait to see the photos from you bogging down your car where you can't see out the windows,
Oh, great. I'll definitely send them out.
Yeah, you have to do that. But yeah, you got to find a place. You got to get on that.
I have ADHD.
Respect.
Understandable. Yeah.
Maybe this is just bias or something, but I just kind of assume it's going to work out, especially after I live with Jason for a while.
That's true. That's true. Actually, yeah, I could see it if you don't want to line up a place, if you're just going to hang out with Jason for a few days, a few weeks.
Well, and you're next on that road trip. To clear out a closet for me or something.
I actually have a really big closet, so that could work. Yeah.
See, I told you things just work out for me.
Look, if you come to Colorado, though, you might not leave. That's kind of what happened to me.
Until it gets to be winter.
Oh, we're just about to hit summer. So you're good for 4 months, maybe. Whatever.
Yes, that's not good enough for me.
Andrew, you said last week you were doing some concern stuff. What did you mean by that? You told us you couldn't record. You said you're working on concerns. Were you doing anything interesting?
Some concerning concerns. No, I just last week was the culmination of several weeks of work where I unexpectedly became kind of the leader of a project at work. And when we were about to have our call, I was in the middle of deciphering some concerns. And because that one argument against concerns is sometimes they get concerning because you can't find anything. And that's kind of where I had found myself. I was where are the things? I know they're here. I just don't know. It's kind of like my room. It's they're here somewhere. But no, nothing really exciting. Just more refactoring and pulling out shared code and writing some nice clean tests and remembering how to test your concerns and all that, which is fun.
Okay. Well, thought you were about to segue us into this amazing conversation, but
no, I have nothing for you. I'm still recovering from my burn.
Well, Chris, I saw you talking on Twitter this week. There's some rumbling about trying to maybe bring Rails Rumble back.
Yeah. Matt Swanson posted about it first. And I was yeah, that sounds pretty awesome because I don't believe I ever participated in that one specifically, but I watched it every year that it happened and, have done plenty of other hackathons. And that's just such a fun little thing to do on a weekend with some friends and, go build something that has a nice clean deadline of, 48 hours or whatever it is. And yeah, I was we should definitely bring that back. And then your boss, Spencer, chimed in and Justin Jackson and Honey Badger folks are interested in sponsoring. So a bunch of people sound really excited about it. So I think we have to make it happen. There's a ton of things to figure out. Luckily, the Rails Rumble FAQ and rules and everything are still up there. So you can kind of reference that and see how they did that, what prizes and stuff for the winners. And guess we'll need to come up with a panel of judges and prompt for ideas for, the projects people build. And it seems like it's going to be a lot of figuring out, but I want to do it. I want to make it happen. So yeah, hopefully later this year. And if anybody is interested in helping out or participating or whatever, let me know on Twitter or email because the more we know, if people are interested, then the more we can for sure make this happen. So yeah, because it's been a few years, I think. Didn't it change names from Rails Rumble to something else that was non-Rails specific?
Oh, is this the Cookpad thing? Because Cookpad has a hackathon, I think they do.
It may be similar. It was,
I've never heard of this before y'all.
Yeah.
Well, it has a Wikipedia page, so y'all buckle up.
Oh.
Whoa. It is an annual hackathon, so the Wikipedia might not be up to date. Similar in spirit to Rails Day, borrowing the format of the 48-hour film project. So Rails Rumble was the pioneer of the 48-hour hackathon model.
It was, last name was Ruby Rampage, which leads to a park domain for sale page. So Rails Rumble is still alive though. Yeah, they had 10 overall winners ranked 1 through 10 picked by the judges. Have a best solo award for solo entry and separate public favorite award. And yeah, so I mean, it'd be a lot of fun. And then looks like, you basically build the app and deploy it to Heroku on their free tier and use your GitHub for submitting your code and whatever else. And yeah, seems pretty cool. So
are you going to force everyone to use Hatchbox? Because that would be a power move.
No, well, part of that is hard because you got to, provide your own servers with Hatchbox. So it's not quite as simple, but
there's your next sponsor, DigitalOcean.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be interesting. We'll have to figure out, what is sort of, I guess, the prompt or like the topic that people are like building ideas towards, that'll be an interesting one. I can imagine doing something like real-time apps or something and trying to encourage use of Hotwire or whatever. And, something along those lines, or you could do like, I don't know. There's probably a bunch of other ideas. So if anybody has thoughts on that, let us know. I think it'll be fun. I don't know when we will announce like dates and everything, but I think we're going to have to figure out a name and a logo and the general format of things. So that might take a few weeks and whatever, but be able to do it, I don't know, later this year sometime.
What if you call it Rails Rumble?
The name that came up yesterday, I think the wife mentioned Go Rails Grumble.
Dude, okay, never mind. I take mine back. That's so much better.
Yeah, that's way better.
So, yeah. Anyways, that's that, or at least the current state of it, which is basically like in the, we should do that phase without any work done. We will see how it goes.
Part of a project.
Yeah.
Have you guys participated in a hackathon before? I haven't. I've like wanted to, and I've just never been able to commit to doing something at like meetups and events and whatnot in town.
I've done a hackathon in 2 of they call them give camps, which are like nonprofit hackathons, but I've never arguably done anything successful at all 3 of those events, but I've participated.
I've done some startup weekends and some other like smaller hackathon things, but we won a startup weekend and I don't remember. Last couple times at startup weekends where like you're trying to build a little business over the weekend from like Friday night to Sunday night. There's the different groups of teams, which some teams are like focused on building software over the weekend. And like other teams are like, we're going to go actually make $1 this weekend. They've always been kind of strange with like the judging. Cause I feel like if you're trying to build a startup over the weekend, you should judge the people that like made money over the weekend. They built a business and made money. That's good. But a lot of times you end up with like a team that's like, we're going to go build an app over the weekend and it's going to do this thing. And it doesn't really work by the end of the weekend and doesn't have a plan to make money and stuff. So it's kind of almost too broad, but they're a lot of fun to like just go and meet everybody there that are interesting people. And I think that's part of why I enjoy the hackathon so much is just go meet all these other people who are into the same things you are.
I like the thought of doing the hackathons because it's so constrained. It's like somebody on your team, if you have a team, has to be the decision maker. It's like, no, we can't do that cool thing you want to do. It's just going to take too long. Let's not do it. Let's get the most progress we can get in the quick amount of time that still is like a good app. Mm-hmm. Don't make crappy features, but make the like features that are the most bang for the buck.
Exactly. I think that's like really satisfying when you like finish one of those over the weekend and you're like, look at this. We like did this kind of major thing in 24 hours and we still have 24 hours left or whatever. It's pretty fun.
Chris and I one time tried to have our own hackathon where we tried to make Jumpstart Pro in a weekend. And we ended up basically just rewriting pay the whole weekend. And then I just stopped working on Jumpstart Pro.
That was fun though. I miss that. Those are really fun times. That time we were at the hotel and like they were replacing a bridge that whole weekend too, which was
fun to watch. Floor, just watching outside. They're taking a bridge apart over an interstate.
Yeah, which was hilarious. We're sitting there trying to do something over the weekend and they replace an entire major bridge and we like fix a little bit of code.
That was a wild weekend. Chris came down to Memphis. We had planned to go like 40 minutes south of here to go work in Tunica at a casino all weekend because we thought we had access to this like private lounge we could go work at. Turns out they changed the rules when we got there. So we drove back to Memphis the next day after spending the night at a casino and then ended up working at a hotel like 5 minutes from my house all weekend. Stayed there and everything.
We need to do that again. That was a blast.
We tried to do that.
So many questions about that.
Yeah, let's go. Come on. What's your question?
Bring it on.
Number one, why the casino? What made you think that you could work at a casino?
Because there's this thing called the Laurel Lounge, and I used to have access to it. It was just like a ton of table and chairs and drinks and snacks. The hotel stay was free. So we were like, if we can go get into this place, but then they changed the rules by the time we got there. I think we sat at the bar for like 30 minutes and played like video poker and then went to the hotel and spent the whole night instead of coding trying to find the next hotel we'd go to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Productive. Okay. So then you go back to Memphis, but you get another hotel. Did you guys stay at like a Motel 6? Because that's what I'm imagining. Some like creepy motel behind like a strip club.
Bro, we were at Hilton. Okay. So
they splurged.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
You better put that crap attitude back where it came from. No,
I didn't know you all had that walking around money.
Yeah. So it was like $100 a night. It wasn't that fancy, but it's like a really tall Hilton. It's like 30 or 40 stories. So we only stayed there one night. No, we stayed there 2 nights, Friday night and Saturday night. The air went out at like 1 a.m. in our room.
Yeah.
And so we actually switched rooms at the hotel. So we were actually never in the same room for 3 nights in a row the whole time Chris was here.
Yeah, it just kept moving. And remember we tried to use the business lounge, which apparently closes. And
the lounge things never worked at any place.
No. Then we were sitting kind of like near, they had like a restaurant there or something. I can't remember. But there was water outside and mosquitoes everywhere that just kept coming indoors. And I remember getting bit a ton because mosquitoes loved me for whatever reason. And it was an experience.
Oh. Yeah, no wonder we got nothing done. We were just always.
I was gonna say, rooms. It's so weird. Y'all got nothing done. I forget that there are Hiltons that are not like on the beach. It's like for here, the Hilton here costs like $300, $400 a night.
No, this one has so many rooms. I think that's why they're so cheap.
Gotcha.
Like it was like the beginning of May. Like it was pretty off season for people to be traveling anyway. Anyway, that was our hackathon. But
can we talk about Caddy now?
Yeah, let's talk.
Story isn't awesome, but it sucks.
No, it's fine. So. It's fine. It is our Ruby podcast. So
yeah, Andrea, I want to talk about Caddy because they've proclaimed you the Caddy expert. I want to know about Caddy.
Sure. Let's start with maybe what Caddy is.
Let's start
for anybody who's confused and been like, she a golf caddy? What's going on here? And it's like,
we made these jokes already. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, Caddy's a open source web server. It's written in Go, so it's really fast. And it does a lot of the painful parts for you, like SSL certs and things like that. So that's why I'd recommend you use it over rolling your own with like NGINX. I mean, NGINX probably has a lot more information out there on how to do things, but you have to kind of roll your own and figure out how to do the cert management and things like that. We use Caddy at Podia. We use Caddy 1 at Podia technically. And it's been really stable for us. I've been impressed with it.
We were running an NGINX server for our custom domain proxy. And my first or second week, it went down and I didn't know what to do with it, which wasn't necessarily the fault of it. It was just ignorance on my part. But since we moved to Caddy, like it's been pretty rock solid. And Andrea can talk more about this, but like she put a really like badass DevOps infrastructure around it too.
That's what I was going to say. Are you like a DevOps engineer?
Not technically. I mean, technically I'm a product developer at Podia, but I have my hands in any basket that they'll let me keep my hands in. So I ended up needing to wear more of a DevOps hat when I built it. But I also built it in mind with, one, the extendability of it. For example, with holiday traffic, our traffic goes up kind of dramatically. So we have to be able to roll out more servers pretty quickly. So I built it with that in mind. And so it's running like, I provision the servers with Ansible, and then I like save an image of them. And then I use Terraform to essentially spin up more servers as I need to. But day to day, generally, most developers would probably interact with it. We built a script to basically check the status of the servers and be like, is this server online? Like, if it is, great. Say it's healthy. If it's not online, say like, it had trouble connecting to the server, and then give the developers options like, hey, do they want to restart the servers, or do they want to like delete the servers and create new servers at will? So we kind of spun up some infrastructure behind that to manage that. I've been looking at Caddy 2. I've been researching it, and a lot of the stuff that I had to build, like I built a Sinatra API that runs on each Caddy 1 server that like our Rails app talks to generate configs. You don't need to do that with Caddy 2. So like they really have like, I put a proposal together for my boss recently for switching to Caddy 2, and we can cut out like 50 to 70% of the complexity that I had to build for Caddy 1.
Nice. How long has Caddy 2 been out?
So 2.3 of Caddy was released December 31st. So it's been 5 months at least since Caddy 2. I mean, since Caddy 2.3 at least.
Yeah, 2.0 came out May 4th. Dang, it's been a year already.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm slow on the uptake at updating us at work. I just like, it's been one of those projects that we built at work, and it's been solid enough that we haven't needed to go change it yet. But it is something that like, you know how it goes when you build something and it works and it does its job, and you're like, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Those kind of situations.
Did Caddy 1 have the built-in API, or was that version 2?
No, that's version 2. So,
okay. Yeah. That'll be the big improvement that will simplify things the most.
I don't even need to use the built-in API. I put together a proof of concept, and you can do what's like on-demand TLS. And there's an ask endpoint. You can give it a URL of like an API, and it will pass a domain parameter to it. And if your server responds like 200 OK, Caddy will serve that domain.
Whoa.
So
that's awesome.
It's really cool in that sense of like, we have customers that are all the time either leaving or changing domains or something. And so like, we need to be able to say like, yes, serve this domain. Great. We'll generate a cert if it's the first time we've ever seen them, and then serve their websites. But if they stop paying, or if they leave, or they remove their domain, we have to go like manually remove their config file right now. But with this on-demand TLS endpoint, it'll ask and be like, and we can say like, 400, 401, like they're not authorized. And then Caddy will be like, sorry about it, not serving this request.
Oh, that's pretty slick.
That's so awesome. Because that's kind of similar to the new, I guess the next version is going to have this like remote configuration. So, you can boot up Caddy and say, hey, go ask the main Podia app for all of the domains, or, whatever configuration. And that seems particularly useful for in version 2 of Hatchbox, or moving from NGINX to Caddy for all the customer apps. And that's going to be like, those things are just like, why doesn't NGINX and these other web servers just have all this? It makes you like feel like, what? Why has this not existed before? And that is a good sign that, they're building the right features. I love it.
If you've been listening to the show for a bit, then you know that Jason and Chris have a crush on Laravel, and I basically battle JavaScript for fun. Regardless of what end of the stack and what language, they all have one thing in common, and that's Honeybadger. Stop wasting time configuring your tools and focus on shipping, knowing that no matter where you are, Honeybadger has your back. Oh, and speaking of shipping, the Honeybadger blog has been on fire recently. Seriously, and I don't say this lightly. Some of the best technical writing you're going to find all in one place. So go check that out, and while you're there, sign up for Honeybadger, let them know we sent you. Thank you so much to Honeybadger for continuing to sponsor Remote Ruby, and for not killing me for all the JavaScript errors I sent you this weekend.
Andrea, are you out of questions about Caddy?
No, I still don't understand what it is. So let me rephrase the question. What is Caddy? Explain to me like I'm an idiot. It's just a replacement for NGINX?
At its basic
Pretty much.
form. At its basic form, yeah.
And what is NGINX?
Oh, no, that's actually a really good question. I mean, if you're an app developer, sometimes you don't think about that kind of stuff.
How much do you understand Puma in Ruby?
Well, I mean, I know what NGINX is. I'm just like, there's a lot of people out there that may not know. I don't think I could explain NGINX to you. I just know that like I tell NGINX like, hey, I want you to proxy like certain things to certain places in my like endpoint, my server. How much do I understand Puma? I understand that it's a forked process server thingy and it runs in my Rails app. And when I tell it to go room, it goes boom.
There you go. That's it. That's a sales pitch. Yeah. For like a quick high level example, like basically, like Puma by itself doesn't really do anything, right? It listens to a port and then it forwards things to Rails and says, hey, here's this thing, send me back the result. Effectively, that's what you use NGINX for most of the time. So like if you're running a PHP like WordPress or something, NGINX runs on your server. It says, hey, I'm going to listen on port 80 and 443 so we can get HTTP and HTTPS. And then when you make a request to that, it looks at the config and it says, okay, we're going to go send this to this folder and either look for like index.html in there or there's a index.php. So let's execute that and send the result back. And so effectively, it's kind of the same thing as what Puma is doing, but Puma is like running in Ruby and NGINX is in C and Caddy's in Go. And so a lot of times, like if you're running NGINX and Puma on your server, you set up NGINX to receive the request immediately. And it's super fast. So you can have it strip your SSL and serve up your static files from the asset pipeline in Webpacker because it's ultra fast, right? Faster than sending a file and reading it with Ruby for sure. So you use that to intercept it. And then if it doesn't find a file, it says, okay, the next fallback is to actually forward that across to your Puma process, which is like, okay, I see that route. I'm going to go run it in Rails and give you the result back and so on. And so like, they're almost kind of doing the same thing because you can run Puma without NGINX in front. It's just not going to be as fast to serve up, your assets or whatever. Conceptually, they're very similar. And then Caddy is like NGINX on steroids with it being smart enough to like, you made a request for gorails.com and we don't have an SSL cert yet. So why don't I just go and try and make one real fast in the middle of the request and you don't even have to configure anything. That's like some magic that they do, which really makes it not as DevOpsy where you're not like going around like, oh, let's go create a certificate request and then go and talk to the Acme client to get a certificate from Let's Encrypt and do all the verification stuff. You don't have to run your process to do that. You don't have to manage the files and where they're set. You're just like telling Caddy, boom, I want this domain on SSL. And it's like, you got it. That's the high level of kind of your web server in general. If anybody's interested, I think there's quite a few tutorials on, and I think AppSignal has a blog post about building your own web servers from scratch in Ruby, which is pretty fun. So you like set up a TCP server and you listen for messages and send messages out. So you can basically build your own little HTTP server and you get to see all the raw HTTP requests and build your responses and serve files back. And it's a pretty good way to like really wrap your head around it. I definitely felt more comfortable when I was like learning and built my own that way. Did the same thing for IRC, which is a blast. But those are some old protocols.
Okay, so here's the real question. What then is Passenger? I've set up NGINX before. I actually set it up with Heroku, which was a major pain in the poo hole.
If you have an HTML file, right, like a static file, then NGINX can just simply read the file and send the contents right back. If you have a PHP file, that needs to be executed in PHP first to get the result. And then PHP can actually be built into like Apache. And so it can know how to process that and then get the result back. When you talk about a Rails app or a Node app or something, it's not just a file. It's actually like got to set up the routes and we got to like run it through your controllers and your models and your views and all that. So there's like quite a few steps. So Similar to Puma, Passenger is a NGINX module that you can actually compile with NGINX. It's single process, but it can start up and manage the Rails server for you. And so it's kind of a replacement to Puma, but instead of with NGINX and Puma where you run two services, NGINX and Passenger is just one service, which is your NGINX thing with the Passenger plugin. So it actually, behind the scenes, is running your Rails app for you, just like Puma would. And that's the main difference there. And it's a lot more user-friendly for setting up for the first time. And if something crashes, you just restart NGINX. You don't have to worry about, your Puma configuration in systemd scripts for making sure that it starts on boot and all that stuff. It's already built into NGINX. So those defaults and everything with that are already taken care of for you.
I mean, not to confuse you more, but Passenger actually can be both a web server and an application server. Just to really mess with you, like it can kind of function as both what Puma does and what NGINX does.
It can be compiled into NGINX or it can run on its own. So, and it's written in C, so it's super fast too.
Yeah, C++.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm done with my questions.
So let me ask you this, Andrew. Would you be interested if I was to, I'm not saying I would, but it's something I've been thinking about, a course. Okay. You've bought every one of my courses. So, I'm
looking for a gardening course next. Maybe actually, if you can put out a course on how to rent a home,
I think
that's kind of my immediate need.
I think a safe skateboarding course would be a good option too.
All right, hey now.
Too soon. It
was too soon because
I wish there was a fire emoji in Zoom. I'd be using it right now.
I'm sure Paul can throw something on the track. Yeah, it hurts. It does literally hurt. So great.
Fantastic. Well, speaking of courses though, Andrea, we haven't had you back on the show since you released a course on Hotwire. You maybe just want to share a little bit about that and we could maybe talk Hotwire for a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So when Turbo was announced, the new version, the beta, when it came out in December, I sort of got to work playing with it and then figuring out like what you can build with it and what you can do. And one of the things that came to mind was a real-time form. And so I built a course walking you through kind of the basics of building a real-time application with Turbo. Of course, I named the course Learn Hotwire by building a form because Hotwire is way more marketable than Turbo might be. So we kind of go from zero to you have a real-time form and you can have posts and discussions and categories that stream in and update. And I wrote zero JavaScript for the course. I think that's kind of the beauty that like you can do a lot of the stuff that normally you would have to drop into JavaScript just with Hotwire.
So can we rewrite Reddit now?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm not looking to get into any type of like war here, but you especially have experience with both StimulusReflex and Hotwire. Using StimulusReflex at Podia, you helped me when I was building my course run some of those videos through you. So do you have any kind of opinions on like, this is a good case for Hotwire, this is a good case for StimulusReflex? I'm just curious your take on that.
I mean, I have a lot of opinions, as you're well aware. Honestly, I think StimulusReflex, the power from StimulusReflex comes from Cable Ready. And Cable Ready has a lot of DOM operations that you just can't do with something like Turbo. Turbo is very limited. It's very good at what it does, but it's very limited to appending, prepending, removing or replacing objects from the DOM, elements from the DOM. Whereas with Cable Ready, you have a lot more of like, you can add CSS classes and you can do things like that from the server side of things. I think Cable Ready is actually going to release a new version, which should make it a lot easier to kind of drop in some of the magic that you have with Turbo, where you can do like a Turbo stream from, and then you give it a stream identifier. So you can like stream from at discussions, and then you can just broadcast to that kind of signed stream with Turbo. So putting me on the spot in that sense, Turbo's really great for sticking with Rails. Turbo doesn't just have like some streaming operations. They have the classic Turbo links you might be familiar with. It's hard to make a call, especially at an abstract level. Like we're heavily invested in Cable Ready and StimulusReflex at work. There are situations at work where I'm like, yeah, we could just do this with turbo if we had turbo.
It almost feels like there's room for both to me.
I think so. Yeah.
Like at first, it very much kind of felt like it was going to be an either or thing. But like as turbo, like we knew more about it and like Hotwire and stuff. In this project I'm working on, I'm using pretty much exclusively Hotwire right now, but I really miss those, like, especially those cable ready things you were talking about, like the more granular things you can do. And I'm like, why not both?
Yeah. I would say like the first thing that makes the big difference between them is like Hotwire takes over all of your links and your form submissions, which StimulusReflex does not. So like it's going to speed up your regular navigation around and provide, a baseline there. And StimulusReflex is more designed kind of for the current page a lot of times. And that's kind of the big difference at the moment between them. And the operations that you can do individually are way more robust on the cable ready side of things. One of the things that I immediately saw on Hotwire was, so it sends over an HTML snippet called a turbo stream. And in the JavaScript, there's a stream actions object, and it has append, prepend, replace, all the little actions that they have, which is only like 5. And it's not exposed to allow you to add your own, but it could easily be exported and you could drop in a morph or whatever. So that's one of those things that I would like to see added to Hotwire or Turbo.js, basically. So that you could just drop in your own, you could call notifications, you could do kind of anything you want really from that, and it would work to extend it, which would be kind of cool. So, all the backend's really doing is setting a action attribute on the turbo stream element. So you could replace that with any word and then match it up to the turbo stream action on the client side, and run custom stuff. And I think that would be a great enhancement to that. I know DHH told me that they have a different mechanism for sending notifications, which they plan on, open sourcing at some point, I'm sure, not soon. But I think in general, they kind of look at the stream actions in Turbo as like HTML operations. So not necessarily notifications and some of the other things that you could do in Cable Ready. So I would think of it in those terms, I guess. It's like it's HTML templates being sent over. So in general, you probably want HTML operations from that. But
the biggest confusion that I think a lot of people who have gone through my course have had is with how do you broadcast? And then it's like, what does it broadcast naturally? And so it's hard because really the only documentation is there's a broadcastable concern inside of the Turbo-Rails source code. And I linked to that probably a dozen times in the show notes in my course videos. It has the documentation, but it's like a lot of people are like, how do I broadcast a different partial to the views than what Rails kind of automatically infers? If you have a post model, it's going to try, and when you replace it, it's going to try and do like posts and then the post partial inside of that post folder, which is, it's not inherently clear. Whereas if you use something with Cable Ready, you just pass it the HTML. Like those are the kinds of refinements I hope to come to Turbo in the future, I think.
Well, I know we've been kind of all over the place today, but maybe it's time to land this plane. Anything else you want to chat about today?
I was just going to say, I think there will be a link in the show notes to my course if anybody wants to check it out. But you should also put a link to Jason's course in the show notes too, because I always think the Ruby community is better when you have choices. So check them both out and see which one you might like.
Chris, you got anything?
And Hotwire. That's the choice. So now you have to buy both, obviously.
Listener.
But hey, I'll give Remote Ruby listeners a 15% off discount from my course.
Ooh.
Oh.
And heat is on. Chris, did you?
By the time this airs, we should have launched the Hotwire iOS template for Jumpstart Pro, which is going to be pretty sweet. So I'm excited about that. Which you can find at jumpstartrails.com.
I hope Paul put some party horns in when you say that.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be all live and everything. We've already got 8 or 10 early access customers trying it out and building stuff. And it's pretty cool to see your Rails app live in a iOS app with 0 changes. And we got all the authentication and push notifications and stuff wired up. So yeah, all those like really hard kind of problems to figure out are kind of done for you, which is, it took us several iterations and asking the iOS team on like, how did they approach it at Hey and Basecamp? And I'm glad we've gotten through that part so we can like work on the more fun things like intercepting a view and doing a native version of it and stuff. It's pretty fun. I have used React Native and tried to do Weeks, WEEX, the like Vue.js version of React Native kind of approach. And yeah, they're interesting. They're pretty cool, but they're just like an extra level of abstraction that I've never really loved. And this is a nice way for you to like write your regular old Swift that you can find many snippets and examples of, and easier to debug that way. But then you can also just have your Rails app work like magic, which is cool. So that should be live on Monday. So it should be out by the time this airs.
And
awesome.
By the time this airs, I'll be in Arizona, whether in a new house or on the side of the road. We'll see.
You're still going to be at Jason's house.
Yeah.
I'll be at
that's
Jason's
my
house.
guess.
Wait, when are you leaving where you live?
Whenever I want to.
Oh, God. You got to give me some heads up. But
whenever you want me to, Jason.
But next week is a pretty free week for me because Shannon and the boys are going to the beach and I'm not going. So if you want to hang, next week's pretty good for that.
Not going to the beach at a time like this?
I think I might come with you, Jason. I might come visit, you know? What the heck? You didn't tell me?
Then we can have a caravan home. To your closet.
It would be hard for me to get any work done. Like, because it's a big family trip. So
it's going to be hard to get any work done when all of us are coming to visit.
Come on, Chris, are you coming down?
I don't know. There's been several things come up because we're like close to breaking ground on the house. So, and other things going on. So I'm not entirely sure, but we need to figure out a day so that I have it on the calendar and I'll know then if I can make it or not.
Well, yeah, I have a calendar somewhere.
You don't use it.
But yeah, we'll talk.
And you don't use email either.
Nope. I'm a nomad.
Andrea, thanks for joining us. Bye.
For having me.
Thank you.
Bye.